boys and girls of grade 5, and welcome to another English language lesson. I'm your teacher, Miss Melissa, and today we will be continuing with verb tenses. In our last lesson, we said that verbs have different forms called tenses. The tense of a verb tells when an action took place or occurred. Verb tenses help us to express time. Verb tenses can tell if an action took place in the present, past, or future. In our last lesson, we were able to look at present and future tense. So, for this lesson, we will be looking at the simple past tense. So, what is the past tense? I know you are familiar with this tense from your earlier grades, so this would be somewhat of a revision. The past tense is a grammatical tense whose function is to place an action or situation in the past. Examples of verbs in the past include the English verbs sang, or washed, or went. Most languages have a past tense, with some having several types in order to indicate how far back the action took place. For example, if we say, I jumped into the lake, this activity is a past activity. However, if I say, I was happy, was is a past state of being. So, what words are associated with past tense? Since simple past tense refer to actions that occur in the past, they may indicate actions that occurred in a definite point in time. For example, last week, or yesterday, or 6 weeks ago. They may even indicate an action that occurred in an indefinite point of time. For example, the other day, ages ago, or a long time ago. Additionally, a week ago, a year ago, or a minute ago all refer to the past tense. So when do we use the past tense? Firstly, we can use the past tense for actions that started and finished in the past. What action have you started today and finished also? Maybe you brushed your teeth, or maybe you ate your breakfast. All of those actions, ate and brushed, indicate an action that you started and also finished in the past. So for example, if we say, last week we watched a movie in class, watched indicates an action that would have started and finished some time ago. Secondly, we use the simple past tense for a series of actions that took place in the past. For example, yesterday we saw a movie, we discussed it, and wrote a review. Those actions indicate a series of actions. Firstly, watching the movie. Secondly, we use the simple past tense for a series of actions that took place in the past. Therefore, these would indicate actions that may occur one after the other. For example, if we say, yesterday we watched a movie in class, discussed it, and wrote a review. The actions are watched, discussed, and wrote, which all took place yesterday. Also, we use the simple past tense for actions that took place over an extended period of time. So let's say we recorded a movie about our class in May and June last year. The action recorded took place over an extended period of time, that is, May, June of last year. And lastly, we can also use the simple past tense for a habit that existed in the past but no longer does. For example, in grade 4, we studied at lunchtime and after school. That sentence indicates that studying at lunchtime and after school was a habitual action, meaning that it occurred daily or weekly or monthly. And so, studied is used to indicate that habitual action. So, how do we form the past tense? The most common method or way of forming the simple past tense is by adding ed to the base form of the verb. So, if we have appeal, the past tense is appealed. Or if we have shout, the past tense is shouted. However, sometimes adding ed is not so simple. We need to follow a few rules in order to ensure that our spelling is correct. So, when adding ed and our base verb ends in e, we drop the e before adding ed. Let's look at some examples. Let's say we have the word relate, relate. If we want to form the past tense, the word would be related. But before adding ed, we must drop the e and then add the ed. So our spelling of related is related. Also, if we have decide, similarly, decide ends in e. Before forming the past tense decided, we must drop the e before adding the ed. So, decided would be spelled decided. How about you take a minute to form the past tense of these words? Relate, continue, and prepare. Check those answers. The past tense of relate is related. However, relate ends in e, so we must drop the e before adding ed. Your spelling should therefore be related, related. What about continue? Our past tense is continued, CONTINUED. Good job so far. And lastly, prepare, the past tense, prepared, PREPARED. Good job, boys and girls. So let's continue in our rules. If the base form of our verb ends in y, we must change the y to I before adding ed. Let's take a look at some examples so that we can apply this rule when forming past tense. Let's look at the word berry. Berry is spelled bury in its present tense. The past tense of bury is buried. In order to form that past tense, we must change the y to I and then add ed. So, the correct spelling of buried is B-U-R-I-E-D. Let's look at another. This should be something that you do daily. Study. What is the past tense of study? Studied. How do we form it? We change the y to I and then add ed. So, studied is spelled S-T-U-D-I-E-D. Great. Let's go on. Some verbs form their past tense by doubling the last letter in the base form of the verb before adding ed. This is done where the letter before the last letter is vowel. Let's take a closer look at some of these examples. Let's say we have the verb drop, D-R-O-P. The last letter is P. But what letter precedes the last letter? O. And O is a vowel. So, before adding ed, we need to double the P and then add ed. So, dropped is spelled D-R-O-P-P-E-D. I think you're getting the hang of it. So let's look at the word stir, S-T-I-R. Our last letter is, yes, R. What letter comes before R? I. I is a vowel. So that means to form the past tense of stir, we must double the R before adding ed. Therefore, stirred is spelled S-T-I-R-R-E-D. So try these on your own. What is the past tense of stop, travel, and occur? I'll give you a minute to form those past tense. Let's check those answers. What is the past tense of stop? Yes, stopped. The last letter in stop is P. The letter before the P is O, a vowel. So we must double the P before adding ed. I'm sure you have in your exercise books S-T-O-P-P-E-D, stopped. Great. What about travel? Yes, the last letter again is a consonant, L. But before L, we have a vowel, E. So therefore, we spell traveled, T-R-A-V-E-L-L-E-D. And lastly, this one is a commonly misspelled word. And I hope from today onward, you will be able to spell it correctly. Occur. O-C-C-U-R. Our last letter is R, but preceding the R is a vowel U. So, to form the past tense occurred, we need to double the R before adding ed. Occurred is spelled OCCURRED. Great job, boys and girls. So let's go on to some other rules that we use when forming the past tense. Some verbs are irregular. What does that mean? This means that these verbs do not form their past tense by adding ed. For example, if we have the word go, G-O, how do we form the past tense? Definitely, we do not add ed to go. The past tense of go is went. Additionally, if we have the word come, C-O-M-E, the past tense of come is came. Likewise, speak, spoke, and eat, ate, or even write, wrote. As you can see, these verbs have no particular pattern in how their past tense are formed, and so they are called irregular past tense. To learn irregular past tense, we need to memorize them. So, let's look at some other irregular past tense. The past tense of bring is brought, B-R-O-U-G-H-T. The past tense of fall is fell, F-E-L-L. The past tense of choose is chose, C-H-O-S-E. And the past tense of steal is stole, S-T-O-L-E. So, these past tense do not have any particular pattern. So, to learn them, we need to memorize them. Additionally, some verbs remain the same in both their past tense and their present tense. They do not change form. Do you know of any such verb that is the same in both present and past tense? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Yes. Put, present tense put, past tense put. Additionally, cut, present tense cut, past tense cut. Also, present tense hurt, past tense hurt. Or spread, present tense spread, past tense spread. Other verbs that are formed in the same manner include beat, broadcast, upset, slit, hit, quit, shut, and burst. So for example, if we say, yesterday, Jack hit me first, we are grammatically correct. Or, I shut the windows last month. Or even, I put the notebook on the table last Friday. So, let's make an attempt to apply our knowledge to this exercise. Using past tense, let's insert the correct form of the verb in brackets. The first sentence reads, last year, I something my holiday in Barbados. The word in brackets is spend. How do we form the past tense of spend? Is it formed regularly by adding ed, or is it an irregular verb form? Yes, you are correct. Spend in its past tense is an irregular verb form. So the past tense of spend is spent. So our new sentence would read, last year I spent my holiday in Barbados. Good. Let's move on. What about this one? The weather was so bad that we something the match. The word in brackets is cancel. How do we form the past tense of cancel? Yes, we form it by adding ed. But I'll give you some time to get the correct spelling. Great. So the past tense of cancel is cancelled. I'm sure you would have observed that before the L there is a vowel E. Therefore, before adding ed, we need to double the L. So cancelled would be spelled CANCELLED. Great. So let's go on to another. The town council something the residents to use water sparingly. Our verb in brackets is encourage. What is the past tense of that verb? Yes, it is encouraged. All we need to do is drop the E, then add ed. So encouraged is spelled ENCOURAGED. And lastly, our sentence reads, the batsman something his hand and had to retire. The verb in brackets is hurt. What is the past tense of hurt? Yes, I'm sure you would have observed that hurt is one of those verbs that does not change its form. Therefore, the past tense is still hurt. So the sentence would read, the batsman hurt his hand and had to retire. We are doing a good job thus far. So let's try another exercise where we will match present tense with past tense. We have verbs on the left that need to be matched with their correct past tense on the right. Let's say, for example, the verb say would be matched with its past tense said. I'll leave you to do the others. Let's go through your answers. Tell would be matched with its past tense told. Go, the past tense is went. Win, the past tense is won. Teach, the past tense is taught. Make, the past tense is made. Draw, past tense drew. Meet, past tense met. What about come? Past tense would be came. That's correct. Take, past tense took. Find, past tense, found. Cry, past tense, cried. And run, past tense, ran. Good job, boys and girls. Since you have done such a fantastic job on the exercises, I will leave some homework for you to do. You have 2 exercises where you will write the simple past tense of the verbs listed. And then you would separate those verbs into a regular and irregular table. Be sure to apply the rules learned when forming your past tense. Recap. The simple past tense is used to speak about actions that happened in the past. It can be formed simply by adding the suffix ed. However, some verb forms are irregular and are therefore formed differently. These types must be learned by memorization. Also, some verbs such as cut, burst, put, and hurt remain the same in both their present and past tense. Remember, exercises and lists can be found on pages 47 to 52 of your new Junior English Revised. It is always a delight when I can spend some time with you. I hope that you also enjoyed our time together and cannot wait for our next class, where luckily we will be given another chance to get into verb tenses. Until then, remember to revise and apply your knowledge in speech and writing, since what you don't use, you will lose. So, see you soon for another English lesson. Goodbye for now, boys and girls of grade 5.